Hey guys, Justin here with AmericanMuscle.com, and today we are taking a closer look at and installing the SpeedForm flush mount spoiler shown here in matte black, available for your 2015 and newer Charger at home. Now the flush mount rear spoiler that we have on the table today is going to be a super affordable way to add that same factory SRT styling to the rear end while still packing a very lightweight and durable ABS plastic build. And this particular option is going to feature that matte black paint job, offer right around the low $200 price point. So in adding or possibly changing out the spoiler on your Charger, you're gonna find a few different options here at AM, from OE styled spoilers all the way down the line to massive aftermarket wings and really everything in between. Now me personally, I'm kind of a less is more fan. I really like the factory styled options because they are a great way to add a little bit more character to the rear end of your Charger, but at the same time, they're not gonna be too wild, they're not gonna be too over the top. And even though this option from SpeedForm is kind of titled as their flush mount option, there is no mistaking that distinct shape and middle cutout more reminiscent of the newer SRT Chargers. And with that said, the SRT option I feel is going to be one of your tamer options of the bunch in regards to both size and angle here when we're talking OE styled options. And again, I think this is going to be a great choice for you Charger owners out there who are looking to spice things up a bit more compared to what you already have on the car now, but ultimately still would prefer to keep things relatively low key compared to those more aggressive options and not go too over the top, more maybe boy racer-ish. Materials in this case, guys, you're gonna be looking at that automotive grade ABS plastic for the construction. That's kind of par for the course here for, I would say, a majority of your options. That ABS is gonna be very lightweight, but also very sturdy at the same time. Now in this case here, again, this is a bit unique because this spoiler has been completed with a very low profile matte black finish here, guys. Certainly gonna offer a nice color contrast to any other non-black car out there, of course. But even if you do have a factory gloss black car, you're still getting that gloss versus matte contrast, which I also think is pretty cool. Moving into our pricing segment, guys, and coming in right around that low $200 mark, the SpeedForm flush mount option is gonna be maybe a bit more expensive compared to some of your other more basic OE options, but notables here do include the quality of that matte black paint job, certainly noteworthy, especially when you start comparing this to the very bare bones and very entry-level options that utilize more of a generic finish as opposed to an actual paint. So certainly something to consider there, guys, as well. And also, if you like the vibe of this spoiler, but maybe you did want to go with more of a gloss finish, well, you're in luck. SpeedForm offers the same exact spoiler on the site, but with a factory gloss black paint job instead. Regardless, I think the message here, check out the rest of our selection, of course, before pulling the trigger. Always a better way to get a better sense of what we're dealing with on the site, but also different options for different budgets. All right, let's segue into the install here to wrap up the video, guys. And listen, if you have any sort of factory or aftermarket spoiler on the car now, you'll be happy to know that the SpeedForm flush option will either use or cover up those existing holes. So really nothing too crazy to worry about there. On the other hand, if you do not have a factory spoiler on the car at this point, obviously you will need to break out the drill. Site's gonna call it 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter just to be on the safe side, about 2 hours to complete from start to finish. A little more, a little less, depending on your current spoiler situation. But now to give you a better idea of what to expect in the garage or driveway, let's throw it out to the shop for our detailed walkthrough and tool breakdown.
The tools you'll need for this project are a ratchet, a 10mm socket, a T20 Torx bit, a number 2 Phillips screwdriver, a trim panel removal tool, 1/4 inch drill bit, and a drill, and some painter's tape. Hi everyone, today we're installing a rear spoiler on our Charger, but first, let's watch a short video on how to uninstall your stock spoiler. So the first thing we're going to want to do is remove the 2 end caps using a soft trim removal tool. Now they're just held in by 4 plastic clips, so we just need to slip our tool underneath it and just pry it out. All right, as you can see, there are basically 3 clips here and 1 pin. So you just may have to work your tool around a little bit to get these things to separate and pull out. And you can repeat that process for the other cap. All right, now we can remove the handle from inside the trunk lid using a T20 Torx bit and our soft removal tool for our push pins. So we've got 2 screws on this handle, 1 on each side. So we'll just remove that with our T20 Torx bit. Now we can remove our cover for the trunk lid. Now we can use our 10mm socket to remove the 4 bolts holding on the center section of the spoiler. We have 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, and then 1 on the other end. And now you can go ahead and lift that center section up. And before we actually get to the actual install portion of this, there's a couple of things that I want to point out that I think you're going to find very important before you make the decision to install it. One is, if you've got a factory 3-piece spoiler or even an aftermarket 3-piece spoiler, you are going to have some holes in your quarter panel up here and on the other end. And you've also got 2 holes in the center of your deck lid here that are not going to be used when you install the new spoiler. So you're going to need to make a decision on how or if you want to fill in those holes on the quarter panel and in the middle of your deck lid. That being said, if you do not have a spoiler on your vehicle already, then you don't have to worry about that. We'll just show you how to place the spoiler on your deck lid, show you where to drill the holes so that you can install this cleanly and safely. Now the thing with this spoiler is it does use the factory holes on the end of the deck lid, but it does not use the center ones. You'll need to drill a new hole in the center of your deck lid in order to fit the spoiler on there. And we will show you how to do that. So I just want you to keep in mind, these are the things you're going to have to think about before you install this spoiler. So let's go ahead and get started. So on the bottom of our spoiler, we've got 3 holes to mount this spoiler on. The kit comes with 3 of these templates for you to attach to the bottom of your spoiler so that you can pinpoint exactly where to drill the holes in your deck lid to run the screws through and secure your spoiler. So the way these work is you're going to remove the center backing material off of each of these templates, like so. And then you're going to lay it on top of the spoiler, right over the hole that this is going to be used to mount with. So you just lay it over the top of the hole. The adhesive on the template will hold it to the template. Now once we've got all 3 of these installed, we'll go ahead and lay it on the vehicle, set our measurements, make sure it's even, and then we can tape the templates down to the deck lid and remove the spoiler. Once we do that, we'll know exactly where we need to drill our holes in order to be able to install this. So we'll finish installing the templates on our other 2 holes here. Although in our case, it's not really necessary because we've already got our 2 holes on there. Now one thing to note as well is these don't have to be exactly straight on your spoiler because the only thing that matters is the location of the mounting hole. And like I said, we'll tape our templates down to the deck lid once we get this in place, and then we'll know exactly where to drill our holes. All right, now that we've got our templates in place, let's go ahead and position our spoiler. Now on our spoiler, you'll notice that the wings on each end have an indentation on them, they don't fit firmly against your quarter panels. So this center section is what we're going to line up on our deck lid. So we're going to sit that in place. Now you want to have this pretty far back on the deck lid itself, but still where the whole thing is sitting flush. The next thing we're going to do is line up these indentations here for the winglets so that they're evenly spaced along the deck lid. Now, once you've got those in place and you're happy with the situation, double check everything, make sure it's straight across, it's not cockeyed on your deck lid, the spacing is right on your winglets. Once you got everything in place, then use some painter's tape and tape your templates down to the deck lid. And you want to make sure that you do both sides of the template so that it doesn't shift. Now, once we've got our templates taped down, we can go ahead and gently remove our spoiler from the templates, and the templates will remain and show us exactly where we need to drill our holes. So now that we know exactly where we need to drill our 3 holes, assuming of course that you do not have pre-drilled holes from the factory, you're going to need a 1/4-inch drill bit and a drill, and you're going to drill out exactly in the center of all of these templates. Once you've got that done, then you can go ahead and file the edges down, make sure that they're smooth and there's no burrs. And once we've got that point done, now we're not going to drill ours of course, because we do have a factory spoiler to put back on here. But this is where you would drill the 3 holes in your deck lid. Once you've got that cleaned up, now we can go ahead and get to the install portion of our spoiler. All right, now that we've got all of our holes cleared up and ready to install our spoiler, once you go to install the spoiler, you're not going to be able to see where your holes are at. So one thing I like to do is just take a piece of tape and put your screw on the tape like so, and then put it through the hole that you've already previously drilled. Once you've got it through the hole and taped into place, now as you see, we've got our screw taped in here. Now we've got a locating pin for our holes on our spoiler. Now you go ahead and do this for the other 2 holes that you drilled, and that way you know exactly where to set the spoiler when you go to install it. Now at this point I also do recommend that you have an extra set of hands, because there is some tape, some double-sided tape on the bottom of the spoiler to help hold it in place and keep water from getting in underneath it. So once you remove the backing off of the double-sided tape, you'll need somebody to hold up the other end to keep it from sticking where you don't want it to stick. So let's go ahead and get our spoiler installed. Now that we've got our screws taped into place, like I said earlier, it's highly recommended that you have a second set of hands to help you do this so that your double-sided tape doesn't get stuck in the wrong spot. Then once you've got a second set of hands, what you can do is go ahead and remove the backing off of these two end pieces here on your spoiler, and then lift up and remove or pull back about 3 or 4 inches on each of these long pieces here. Do that on both ends. That way when you get the screws into the ends of your spoiler, these will be sticking out, and you can gently set this down on the deck lid, and once you're sure that it's in the right spot, then you can go ahead and pull these out and press down on it to hold it into place. Now, because we're not actually changing our vehicle and putting this on as permanent, I'm not going to need a second set of hands. I'll just show you the process that we're going to use to go ahead and finish installing this. So to do this, you're going to need a number 2 Phillips screwdriver, and like I said, a second set of hands if you've got it available. So we're going to line up our mounting hole on the spoiler with the stud that we've already got installed. And we'll get that started. And then we'll go ahead and install the screw on the other side. And now that we've got our 2 screws on the ends installed, double check your alignment. If you're happy with it, go ahead and tighten down the middle screw, and then we'll tighten down the ones on the end. Now that we've got our spoiler installed, we can go ahead and replace our trim piece underneath the deck lid. So we'll feed our handle through here. Once we've got our handle fed through, go ahead and put it back up into place. Reinstall our push pins. Now we'll reinstall our handle using the original screws and our T20 Torx bit. Now your installation is complete. And that wraps up our review and install of the SpeedForm flush mount spoiler with the matte black finish for your 15 and newer Charger. Thanks for watching, and remember, for all things Charger, keep it right here at AmericanMuscle.com.